then Saravanan. So Saravanan is online. Hello there, Saravanan.
Hey, hi Raz.
Hey,
Are you able to hear
Saravanan.
me?
Hello, Saravanan. And Saravanan, thanks for joining us today. And you're joining us from
I'm joining from Singapore.
Singapore. That's it. Sorry, slipped my mind. Singapore, fantastic. So Saravanan, thank you for now. So what Saravanan can be doing is Saram covered financial management. Then you had Chandana that covered the inventory and the purchase management. Now, what Caravan's going to do is go end to end with the financial management so that you have a better understanding of the process. Because a Caravan, as you would agree, this is obviously the most important functionality within inside of Business Central. So, the objective of today is for you to really understand the fundamentals, right? So, thank you, Caravan, for joining us. Are you able to share your screen?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Let me share screen.
So, Caravan, don't forget to introduce yourself, and then you kick off the presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, sure. Thank you. Thank you, Raz. Hey, hi all. Um, uh, Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning from where you are. A quick bit about me before getting started. I'm Saravanan. You can call me Saran in short as well. I'm based out of Singapore. I work as a Business Central techno-functional consultant. I'm passionate about learning new tech and applying them to solve business problems and improving the process flows. So far, I have implemented solutions integrating Dynamics 365 Business Central along with D365 Sales and Power Platform, be it model-driven, Canvas apps and all. And I'm basically working from a company called Totally Biz Solutions. Is also a Singapore-based Microsoft Solutions partner, specializing in cloud, data, AI, and business applications. And if in case you wanted to contact me, please feel to reach out to me. I'm always happy to talk about Business Central. Now, let's get into the agenda on the topic which we are going to go through. So, over today's session, we will be going through about financial consolidation in Business Central. First, we will be starting with understanding consolidation in Business Central. We will establish the ground rules, look at the conceptual architecture, and make sure everyone understands the concept of the group company or parent or consolidation company. Remember, it's just the empty bucket waiting for the data when it's about the consolidation company. Second, we are going to jump into the system and set up our business units. Over the session, I'll explain what is business units. This is where we would be introducing the parent company to all its subsidiaries. And third is the mapping of the subsidiary chart of accounts to the group chart of accounts. So here we will be doing the mapping irrespective of the chart of accounts, be it same or different as well. Once our setup is done, it's time for the main event. Basically, we will run the actual consolidation and validate the results. Right? So, and yeah, one more, like finally, we will be talking about eliminations as well. Yeah, let's get into the session. So, before going into the session, I firstly wanted to set some level, like because I want to make this concept very easy to understand. So let's go through not so theoretical, but in a deck format, so you would be able to, understand the terminologies and all. Then we will get into the session, right? So let's talk about what consolidation is in Business Central. Many organizations can have multiple legal entities. Maybe you have a parent company and then a handful of subsidiaries. And think of these subsidiaries as a financial children, basically. Okay. And the place where we gather all their data together is what the consolidation or a group company. So when you think of consolidation, just for a funny note, like you can consider like a Avengers movie. So that's where you can see all the characters, but there won't be any historical background in that area. So why I'm placing that joke here is like you would be performing consolidation company only for reporting basis, not on a daily operations, right? We will get into that deeper in the next slides. Yeah, maybe since we are in the picture, I'll just also address about the pictures concept. So yeah, so here what we are trying to explain is like we have a subsidiary company one, which is a Singapore-based entity, and then we have a second subsidiary company. This one is based out of US, and then we have the consolidated company, and this consolidation company is also the parent company is also based out of US. So these subsidiary companies is all like sending their GL entries. Remember, once you post the data within the subsidiary company, then only these data can be shared to the parent company. So any unposted transactions would not be considered here. So you have to post all the transaction or like, close all the entries within the subsidiary companies. And finally, the posted transaction would be sent to the parent company. And how does the parent company understand it? It's based on a business unit. So basically, like it cannot simply take all the transaction. It needs a identification factor. So that is what we here call it as business unit. So we would have the mapping done in this business unit area, and then it would be captured into the parent company, right? So with that, we will go into the next slide, which is about the evolution of consolidation in Business Central. So before we jump into the system and all, like I just want to show you why now is the perfect time to be looking at consolidations in Business Central. Because pre 2021 period and all, believe it or not, like if you see those period, you need to do a file based import. So what does it mean? Basically, you need to export the data from multiple subsidiary companies as a Excel information or a database information, and then import those things and all. Like manually, you have to download it, save it into your desktop or laptop, and then upload it into the system. So that was the thing before or like around 2018 during NAV versions and all. But Microsoft wanted to continuously invest their time and effort on this area. So what they have done, they have provided various numerous feature updates and all. So during 2021 period, there was a cross environment breakthrough. So basically during this period, there was a API based consolidation, right? So what does it mean? Like you don't need to have the environments have the companies within the same environment. It can be different environments as well. So meaning like one environment can be in Southeast Asia and another environment can be in North America and another can be in a different area. Irrespective, just by entering the API credentials in the parent or consolidation company, it would be able to pull through the information from the subsidiary companies, right? So with that, you no longer had to download and upload. You could authenticate and pull data directly from one cloud environment to another seamlessly. So that was from 2021 period. Then during 22, so there was a lot of financial reporting upgrades, like even Bandam Sairam had mentioned, and even other members have mentioned about account schedules, and now it's called as financial reports. So why it mattered for consolidation? Because they added better row and column definitions, making it significantly easier to build side-by-side comparatively consolidated reports. So that way we would be able to see consolidated reports which consist of subsidiary A, B, and then the elimination company in adjacent columns itself. So these improvements were during 2022. And then during 2023, during the release wave 2, right? So consolidating in different currencies was made much easier. There was an improved rate handling. Microsoft refined how the system handles exchange rate adjustments during consolidation process. Right. So then we have 2024 period. And yeah, one more thing was like even the business unit setup have been streamlined during 2023 itself. And during 2023, we also had one more improvement. That's not in consolidation, but it is a topic which, connects each other, which is intercompany. So in terms of intercompany process, there was an improved UI and all. Like we have the inbox and outbox setup process and all. There was a lot of automations happen. Like earlier, you need to manually go through. So those things were automated. So let's say between subsidiary A and B, there would be a transaction. Those things and all like improvise. So why I'm constantly highlighting about these things and all, like when you take about a ERP system, it's not only about like a single entity operating in one environment. Microsoft Business Central is a system which would be helping you to scale further. So you can have a company in one area, or like you can initially start with one company and then slowly increase to few companies in one country, or like slowly expand to another country as well, move on to continents. But you don't need to worry about managing your financial systems. So it will all be easily managed through intercompany and then through consolidation reportings, right? So during 2025 and all, no need to mention at all. Like you have all this Copilot features within Business Central. Like you can directly just with human language interact with the system and ask queries like to provide reporting informations and all, and that way you would be able to get the details, right? So this is the evolution of consolidation in Business Central. So right now is the peak time, I would say, because like it is all very well flow based, and you would be able to do all the data pulling in a much seamless manner, right? So why businesses need consolidation, even though like I had iterated previously. So the beauty of Business Central is that it doesn't care how messy the financial family tree is. So when you transfer the general ledgers from your subsidiaries into consolidated company, Business Central can handle it irrespective of the chart of accounts. Meaning, like in company A, you can have a structure of chart of accounts, and in company B, you don't need to maintain the chart of account the same way. It can be different chart of account structure. The style can be different, and company A can be of a local currency, Singapore or Euro or Japanese yen, and then the company B can be US based, a different currency as well. And it can be different fiscal years. So one can operate Jan to December, other can operate on April to March. So even, yeah, I've already covered about the different business environments itself. So you can have the database one in Asia and then the other in North America, different environments. So it can handle it. Not limiting to those things alone. Even if suppose a parent company is having a partial ownership, let's assume like uh, Grab and all is operating in Singapore, but Uber is also a better example. So Uber operates in different areas and all, and let's assume like they wanted to reduce their ownership in certain country. So they are still operating, but it's also like 75-25 ratio, something like that. So from the parent company, they want to pull a report. So what they can do is just with Business Central, they can define the percentage of their holding, and the parent company can, let's say like hold around 75 percentage of a company in one of the subsidiary company. So then what happens? The parent company would be like pulling over exactly 75 percentage of their financial information, right? So this is how like it would be working on. And with that, you would be able to handle a lot of things which is not possible in other systems, right? So when it's about Business Central's consolidation process, so I just want to clear the air before going into the system. So at its core, consolidation in BC is simply about bringing your ledger data together for reporting purposes. Why I'm reiterating that is, if you are in a parent or like the consolidation company, you won't be keying in journals or like day-to-day activities and all. It's purely for a reporting basis. So you operate it that way only, right? So we are taking the financial results from all the different entities and then rolling them up into one place, right? So I'm reiterating, like we are just only taking the financial informations of all the subsidiary companies. There won't be any day-to-day transaction. So the group parent company doesn't actually sell anything, but it definitely wants to see the results of all the sales and expenses from different entities. That's the thing. So the demo setup, what we are having today is basically two subsidiary companies. So one company is operating in Singapore. So I have set the currency as local currency as Singapore dollars. And the second currency, I've set it as US based in US dollars. And then the consolidated company or the parent group company is also under US dollars, right? So it means like when it's pulling the data from subsidiary one, it also need to do all this currency exchange rate calculations and pick the right value. And yeah, so in the second example, it doesn't have to do, just to keep it easier for understanding, but it can operate in a complex manner as well. The key rules is like consolidation reads only the posted GL entries. So be it subsidiary 1 and 2. So if we created any purchase orders, just kept it, so it won't be considering those things and all. Only the posted GL entries would be considered, right? And with it, we'll move on. Yeah, so we would also see about certain concepts in the actual demo. So I just wanted to, keep it very simple through the slide before getting into the system. That's why we are going through a lot of uh, session over the deck itself. Pardon me if I'm boring, right? So earlier we have I have explained about the process and all these things and all. What is the next step after that? So I'm already saying like the parent company can automatically pull the data, all these things and all. But how does it happen? So it's basically happening through a account mapping concept. So where the account mapping is happening, account here which I'm referring is the general ledger. Okay, so general ledger or like the chart of accounts which we have in each and every companies. So let's say we have a subsidiary company A and a subsidiary company B. So all this data need to flow to your so all this data need to go to your parent company, right? So assume this, like the account numbers which we see here is from a subsidiary company, right? So in this example, I'm giving like inventory costing related GLs and all here. So these data and all need to be mapped to a parent or like group company. So maybe in the parent company, it's not the same GL. It can be a different GL as well. So just in the subsidiary company, if we map what is the GL in the parent company, then it is so smooth that it will be automatically pulled by the parent company. So this is how the pulling of data is happening, right? So we just go to all the subsidiary companies, define a so-and-so GL in subsidiary to the parent company. So that's what we are going to do. This is what we are calling as account mapping. So we go to all the subsidiary companies, mapping the chart of account details in the parent company in the subsidiary only. Remember, we don't do it the vice versa. We don't go to the parent or group company and define the subsidiary, right? So you can easily correlate it. Like the father's name would be carried on by the son, not the vice versa. So you can just think of like this. So in the parent company, we don't put the subsidiary GLs and all. It is always in the subsidiaries only. Right. So that's about this particular account mapping concept. Let's move on to the next one. So how versatile is it? Like when it's about consolidation, so it's already a reporting data. And when it's reporting, so you need to some areas group it, some areas you need to categorize it. So you can see here in this image that in a subsidiary company, you have the GL accounts like 60100. The posting date belongs to January, and then there's also one more entry, the third entry, that is also on February, right? So suppose in the consolidation company, if you're running it on a quarterly basis, assuming Jan to March, then why we need to create a lot of entry. So some doesn't want to create a lot of entry. You just assume that example. So it is so versatile that you can group the accounts. Instead of having two entries, you can simply have one single GL based entry, group by all the posting dates, and then create a single entry itself, right? So this is one way. It's not only by this method. Also, you can handle it by different dimension grouping as well, right? So we can group by the account, which is GL accounts, and then the period, which is the date, and then also by dimensions. So I'm sure, like in the previous sessions, our presenters have already explained about topics like business units, dimensions, all these things and all. But just wanted to keep it simple. Like dimension is something similar to a hashtag. So when you search by a hashtag, then you will see all the informations in the internet which is posted against it, right? So you can just correlate it like in Business Central. I'm just saying for a new audience who is new to Business Central. Suppose if already people know Business Central, those audience, so you don't need to mix up this example. So it's for the new audience from Power Platform or other areas and all, right? So it's very similar to a hashtag concept. Like if you just search by a hashtag, you're able to find all the relevant information, be it multiple Facebook posts or like Insta posts, you are able to see all the information. Likewise, if you wanted to group entries by a certain information, right? So I want to group all the data by a salesperson. So the salesperson is itself a dimension here. So yeah, coming back to this area. So when it's about subsidiary entries, you can group it to the parent's consolidated company by the account, by the period, or even by the dimensions, right? So these are all the features available in Business Central. So you can categorically see like, okay, by this particular GL on dimension A, how much entry, on dimension B, how much entry. Just as one lump sum entry instead of seeing a numerous entries in the parent company. Because parent company just wanted to focus on the reporting data, right? Yeah. So let's move on to the next one. So the next is about the currency translation. I'll fasten up. So when it's about the currency translation, why we are saying about this topic is basically like the subsidiaries can be of different currencies. So when the currency is different, right? So how will the parent company be able to capture it or handle the FX rates, all these things and all? So to handle it, so if a BU, which is business unit, we will also see that in the system, but basically business unit is a mapping factor which will help the subsidiary data to be taken to the parent company data, right? So that's the business unit. So if business unit currency is not the same as the group currency, so meaning if the subsidiary value is not same as the consolidated company, then we need to set up the exchange rate information, right? So in the consolidation company, we have to set up, okay, so this entry is going to come from Singapore currency or like euros or like Japanese yen. So basically in the consolidated company, we also have to define like, hey, these are all the subsidiary companies. So I am better providing you the currency exchange rate of all these companies, all these currencies. So when that is available, it moves on to the next stage. So which is about the average rate. There are also other options which we will see into the system. However, your balance sheet is a snapshot of exactly where the company stands on the very last day of the month. So we would be seeing about the closing rates, all these things and all on the last day. So based on that, we will be able to see the data, right? So why is it so important? Well, what if the auditors tells you that your retained earnings or a specific fixed asset account must be translated using a historical rate from the day the company was found 5 years ago, right? So for these reasons, you would also be able to define the different exchange rates as well. So these are all the rules related to currency translations. Then so these things and all, I think it's hard to remember all the points. So I'll just keep these points simple. So before posting into the consolidation company, we pulled all the data, we captured all the data, and after that we need to post the transaction. If we post it, then only we will be able to see the data from a lot of different companies into one area. Before that, the system also have a testing feature, like you would be able to do the testing of consolidation in the system. So it is always advisable before posting to run through the test database checks That way you would be able to see, suppose if some gaps are there, like if you haven't done the dimension mapping, all these things and all, you would be able to see it. And after that, you can do the actual posting. Then the final thing is about running the consolidation. So what BC would be able to do is basically it will pull the data, then applies the mapping. So this point, whatever I'm saying, like it's all done by the system itself. Of course, we are doing all the setups, but BC would be able to, when you're running the consolidation, by the click of the button, it would be able to pull the data from all the subsidiary entities and also apply the mapping factors, currency translations, and then bring all those entries into one single group company itself. Right. So the final result would be like you'd be able to see the group totals and then how much is the contribution by the individual BU. So individual BU as in like by subsidiary A, how much, subsidiary B, how much, all this segregation for a single GL account itself. That we will see it in the demo, right? So these are all the things we would be able to see. And this is a joke which I wanted to say for the second half. So with that, I'll hold or like pass the session here, move on to the demo because I don't want to hold you with the concepts a lot, right? So let's move on to the system. Right. Okay. So now we are in Business Central. So I have three tabs to easily understand about two subsidiary and then one consolidated company created. So right here, the first tab is subsidiary company Singapore, and then second is subsidiary US based company, and then third is a consolidation company. Right. Also in system, there is a feature in the search or like here you can see a glass sunglass. You click on it and then you magnifying glass and then you click on it and then you can type companies to see the list of companies available in the overall database. So overall you have 3 companies. Suppose if I have few more companies, if I have created, then all these companies would be available in one area, one single area to view it. And also there's a feature, suppose if assume like within Singapore itself there's a financial manager, or like any country there's a financial manager who needs to manage few companies and all. So what they can do, they don't need to worry about switching. Suppose if I need to go to from in Singapore or like in US I'm operating and they want to move on to the next company. So I simply click on the companies by clicking on the environment and then say switch. Suppose if I wanted to open in a new tab, I click on open in a new tab so that you don't get confused with the list of tabs, right? So I'm opening a new tab, which is basically another entity itself. So I'd be able to see that another entity information, right? So I'll close this and continue the explanation, which is about the subsidiary companies first, right? So here we have a subsidiary company. I'll quickly explain about the setups which we have in these systems. So we are going to general ledger setup just to showcase, like the currencies are different, right? So here, this is a Singapore-based company. So we have currency here and it is set as SGD details and all available. And then we have US-based. So I'll cut the repetition. So you'd be seeing here as US dollars and then in consolidation. So this is a parent company in US. So of course, like here also the currency would be in US, right? Then the next thing which we need to see is about currency exchange rates defined. So where we are going to see it, we are going to the consolidation to see it. Why? Because of course, we'll be able to see it in the subsidiary as well. Let's see it here. I'm going to currencies and here let's search for SGD. Right. Okay. So here I have Sing dollar created. So why we have created this, basically like when the system needs to pull and then do the currency translation, all these things and all, it needs to be available first. So likewise, we also have the currency exchange rate in SGD as well, because when we post a transaction, we can post for US as well. So not necessarily only Sing dollars need to be there. So it is also already a multi-currency system. So in a single environment, you can also receive transactions from US currency or like different currencies as well, right? Okay. So then what's the next concept which we need to see is, just a moment. Yeah. Oops, sorry. Yeah. So we have seen about the companies first. Then the next thing which we are going to see is about the next concept, which is chart of account mapping. So let's say I'm in a subsidiary company. I'm going to chart of accounts. So here I would be able to see all the GL entries, and I'm going to take a GL in this company which is related to sales. So I'm going to check for the company's GL entry, sales of resources. Oh, right. Okay. So the scenario which we are going to go through now is like, I'll explain the whole scenario. So in subsidiary company A or SG, we are going to make a income-based entry, and then in the second or like subsidiary company US-based, we are going to make a transaction of expense-based. Then we are going to the consolidation company and then pull these two information, and let's see like we are able to get both income and then the expense based data, right? So this is a scenario which we're going to go through. So I'll break those things into blocks, smaller blocks, or like what are the setups which we are going to do in the system to achieve that area, right? So as I earlier said, we have the subsidiary company. So in the subsidiary company, we need to do the mapping of the parent company. So in the GL accounts card page or the detail page, so we have the GL related informations, which our previous presenters have very well explained. And so here we have a section for consolidation. So here we are going to define informations related to the parent company. So what we're going to do here, hey, this sale of resource, if you are providing this information to the parent company, to which GL you need to pass it on to the parent company, right? So that is what we are defining here. Um, system can handle different GLs. There's no worry about it. But I'm super slow, so or like super lazy. I wanted to keep things very simple, so I have put the same GL itself because I just did a copy of the company from one to the other. So in this consolidation company as well, I'm having the same chart of account structure, but system is very versatile. You can have a different GL mapping as well. So what I'm saying here, so here it can be a sale of resources or a few GLs, but the few GLs can be pointed to one single GL in chart of accounts, and the one single GL can be a different number as well. There's no problem with that. The system can easily understand because you are defining the numbers here, right? So here the consolidated debit account, credit account is all defined, and this is a translation method. So there are a few methods. Suppose if you want it to be average or like closing rate by the specific date or like historical rate, all these things are available. So you can define the exchange rate in the system, right? So likewise, in subsidiary company SG, we have sales of resources GL. So this is the GL I have taken, and in subsidiary company US, I'm going to chart of accounts. So here I have a scenario for expense, right? So I have an expense GL which is related to rental. So this is a GL I have picked for the demo, right? So before that, before the demo, I also need to make sure, right, things are working fine. So I have done a few transactions as well. So no worries, like we will definitely create new entries, but at the same time, like you see, like there are two entries created, so no need to worry like why we are seeing a value here. It's because we have posted two entries of 10,000, and then we also have entry posted in the subsidiary company US as well related to rental. This is also posted, and yeah, so here also I have done the mapping of parent company GL, right? So this way account mapping part is completed, right? So in both the subsidiary companies, we need to do the account mapping. Then the third thing what we need to do is we need to go to the parent company. So in the parent company, we need to go to business units. Remember earlier I said, like in subsidiaries, we need to define in parent to which GL it needs to be mapped. And in the parent company, it is the business units we are going to define. So how it needs to be grouped or like received from the subsidiary, right? Okay, so here we are going to create, suppose if I have 10 subsidiary companies, then I have to create 10 business units here, right? Because every subsidiary company need to have a single entry here. Then I go into the card page or like the detail page here. So I already created, thinking that I'll be talking too much. I wanted the session to be simplistic. So we have all the entries available. Don't worry. Okay, so here we have the business unit card page. So I have defined, I gave a code and then a descriptive value. And then I have also defined what is the currency code of the subsidiary company. Then I have information here, currency exchange rate table. So here we have local and business unit. I'm choosing local because I'm going to take the information from this company only, the parent company only. But suppose if I wanted to take it from the subsidiary company itself, then I have to select it as business unit. And remember, I was saying about like ownership or like the level of percentage, all this part and all that is defined based on this consolidation percentage. Suppose if the parent company is only holding 50% of the shares in this subsidiary company, then you can enter 50 here. And then what is the start and end date for this business unit card? So you can even remove the ending date. Suppose you don't want to define it, like it's on and on going on business, so you can leave it as well. And then I have already run it, and yeah, data source, like how I'm going to pick the currency exchange rate. So there's also a reporting currency concept. For this session, I don't want to confuse much. So we are taking the currency code based on the local currency. Local currency means this particular company is operating in a local currency, which is US dollars, right? So here it is Sing dollar, here it is US dollar. So system knows to calculate the exchange rate pattern. Then last run, I've already run a report. Hey, of course I need to prepare, right? So I've already run things. So it shows that particular date and time. Then, so data import. So pardon me if I'm boring much. Like I also want you to explain about like besides the demo scenario which we are going through, there are other processes as well, like other scenarios as well where the system is capable of. To explain those things, I am explaining the features available here, right? Okay, so suppose, yeah, so here in the data import, we have database and then the API based. So here, luckily, within the same environment, I have all the companies. But what if, like the scenario which I explained, if suppose there are a company got started in Singapore by a separate company, and then later a US company acquired a Singapore based company, but fortunately, suppose we will imagine the scenario as both the companies are in Business Central. So then you can choose a API based method, and with that you would be able to extract the information even though these environments are not in the same data center, right? So then the company name. So this is where I'm defining. So this particular company lookup which I'm getting is the company's lookups which you are able to see here, this area, right? So it's basically pointing to different database. So I can define it here, and with it we will be able to like go further. Yeah. So the same thing is also set for the US base. You can see all this information here. So next we are going to quickly go to the entries part, and we will see like once posted what's happening. So I'm going to the subsidiary company Singapore based one, and then I have already created a sale based entry, right? So here we have it. So we have sales of resources and then a bank. This is a bank account, right? And what you have done, we have entered 5,000. So basically we are saying there's a sale of 5,000. Bank have captured it. So we're going to post this entry, right? So I have a feature called preview posting. Suppose if I wanted to view like what would be the impact, I can click on it and then see. I'm going to do the actual posting here. Yeah. So one thing I would have explained here, which is like the dimensions part, which I mentioned. Suppose for the same GL, if you wanted to do it for multiple dimensions, like um, salesperson A, how much is the revenue he brought? Salesperson B, how much is the revenue he brought? So then you can define all those informations in the dimensions. So those informations also would be gone into the subsidiary, right? Now we have posted in this subsidiary, and after posting you can see 25,000 is reflecting. I'm going to the US based and going to the general journal. So it's basically a journal creation area for the new business central users. I'm saying these points, right? Okay, so here we have expense based entry. We are thinking something like there's an expense of rental expense in US based company. So what we are doing, we are, like spending 2000 for the rental expenses. We are posting this. Done. Right. So we have done the postings for both the companies. And after that, we are going to the parent company. And in the parent consolidation company, I'm going to subsidiary SG. So after going to this area, I'm going to click on actions, functions, and then testing part. Remember in the slide deck we were seeing about testing. So actually, what are all the things we covered? We did the coverage of different companies and then account mappings. And after that, we have posted the entries in the subsidiaries. And now in the parent company, consolidation group company, we are going to test the ability or that the system is able to pull the data. So before checking it, before doing the actual running consolidation, we are going to do the test part. So if I click on the test database, I need to enter the date period, right? So I'm going to keep it simple, just give this particular month. And after that, there's an area called business unit. So suppose if I wanted by, let's keep it simple. Like I'll go into the business unit explanation. So here I'm already in business unit SG, so I'm selecting that value here and then clicking on preview. So what system will do, it will just do a cross checking whether every setup is proper or not, like that. Suppose if I had missed out some setups, right? So I'd be able to see some lines, error messages kind of lines saying like, hey, you haven't done the mapping for this particular GL, right? So if the GL is not mapped at all, then how the data would be pulled? So you go and do that particular mapping and then come back here. So like that it will be defined. But for now, so the first line is like a general line, and then the lines below are like the detail lines. So here it says like this particular account. What is this account? We did only like sale of resource. What is this account? So this is basically related to the revenue part of it, where it hit kind of information, right? And this is also a map, so it shows that. And then related to this particular sale of resource, so in sale of resource, in the consolidation, sorry, in the subsidiary company, this is the data which we entered. So it's basically going to the subsidiary company and then pulling all the details in one area. Hey, this is the parent company GL, and then in the subsidiary you have mapped these things like that. It shows all the information. Now that it is all correct, what we are going to do, we are going to do the actual part, running the consolidation. So I'm going to click on run consolidation. I need to define. So I have run already one time, so it shows that data here. So I just simply change the running number alone. And after that, this is the parent company currency, and then, okay, so I ran the US one as the last one. So let's change it here, right? So also I better change it as a monthly one here. Right. So I'm running for this 1 month, March month, and then here I have selected the right business unit and then run this, right? So it's asking for a confirmation, click yes. So what it's doing is like it have already posted within this few seconds, microseconds, it's already posted. So it is asking for a report to be generated. Like, hey, I've already posted. Better you put a filter, and then you can check the data from the reporting, which is the report called Consolidated Trial Balance. So I click on preview. Right? Actually, what happened in this short span of seconds, the entry got posted, and then it is also saying like this is the respective report. After posting the data, you need to run through and then check it. So this is basically consolidated trial balance, meaning in consolidated company there is a trial balance, which is the whole chart of account GLs. So here, what I need to do is like I need to go to that particular GL, sale of resources, right? Where's my sale of resources? Actually, it is here, but I wanted to see some other information as well. Yeah. Okay. So here we are able to see sale of resources, but what is this 18,500, right? So basically, it is doing a currency conversion. So from Sing dollar, there's overall value of 25,000. So it is all converted to US dollars, which is 18,500. So I have defined the rate as like 1.35. So yeah, so it had calculated and then created the entry. So maybe like when I'm doing the US based one, it would be easy to understand. So I'm going to subsidiary US functions, test database, define the date, select the business unit, US, preview, no issues. So here the GLs are related to business account operating domestic. It's basically actually I said wrongly the previous time. It's basically the bank related GL. So we selected bank account, but the corresponding GL is like this particular GL. Then, so here it is other rental expenses, the GL. I have just, for this demo to keep it simple, just mapped only one GL for this session. It's also easy to remember, right? Okay, so now it's all, the settings are all correct. So I go to the run consolidation, run it, and just change one thing, which is for sub B, subsidiary US, right? All the informations are correct. Yeah. Mm. Okay, so it posted. Let's also put the filter to run the reports. So here I'll maximize. I need to look for rental expenses. Also, I can look for this uh, bank, right? Like basically, it got expensed out of the bank. So I can also see here from the bank point of view, there's 4,000. I posted 2,000, but why 4,000? Let's go to the GL and then check. So actually, I said, right, like before the session, I have posted one entry. So overall 2,000 plus 2,000, 4,000. It's reflecting related to the bank. Also, we will go to the rental expenses, right? So yeah, one more thing which I wanted to see is like, so you can see in a detailed manner. So you see like you are in the parent chart of account where sale of resources will be there, and then it will also give a bifurcation by sub SG, Singapore based how much. Then suppose in the same sale of resources from the US company, if I posted one more entry, I would see one more. So that example, you can see it in the bank because in the bank for everything, it hits the bank, right? So you can see here by SG how much and then by US how much. So basically SG, there was a income generation and then in the US there was an expense of rental. So it would be able to provide for one single GL by different companies by bifurcations, right? Suppose if there are 10 companies, then you can see 10 line items, but it would be a summarized entry, right? So let's go to the other rental expenses and then move on to the next topic. Yeah, so in other rental expenses, we can see the 4,000 available, which is same in the subsidiary company as well. So great. With that, we successfully pulled in the information from the subsidiaries to the consolidation company. So today what we have learned is like we can manage multiple companies. We can also, do the setups to pull the data from multiple companies, and we can see in one umbrella. We don't need to, worry about managing multiple Excel sheets or like viewing all the informations or like spending more time on doing this consolidation work and all. Do a one-time setup and then pull all this information in one area. So that's what we try to learn today. And yeah, so let's go back to the second portion because I wanted to continue about like few more points in consolidation. What are the other capabilities? The other one which I wanted to discuss is about eliminations, right? So I know I would be talking too much, so I wanted to do a kind of a joke. I don't want to mislead the joke as well. Of course, like these things are not subsidiary companies. They are all different companies. But it's a recent trend which happened. So I wanted to at that time, I I wanted to quote that as the reference point. So I put that image like that. Okay, so what we are trying to discuss here is like there were some kind of in the tech industry there were some kind of funds transferred from one to the other in terms of the VC or the investment angle and all. So I took that as a joke to relate here, but of course, like these are all different companies. But what I wanted to say, I hope you understand this joke here. So what I wanted to say here is there is a process in businesses as elimination. So if we didn't do eliminations properly, then we will not be able to know the proper income or the proper expenses happening over the entities, right? So let's say there is a business happening between two subsidiary companies, right? So one company is creating some raw material, and then the other company is procuring that raw material or purchasing that raw material, and then they are doing a finished goods or some kind of things are happening, or like they can simply buy it and then sell it to their customers. So if that's the case, so how do you consider that? Like, do you consider that's a profit in two areas? No, you should eliminate the profit in one area. So or like if it's something between company to company, they want for some kind of internal process. So those things and all should be eliminated. Shouldn't be considered as a profit itself, right? So that's what we are trying to do. So consolidation initially sums up external transaction, and that's why we need to eliminate if a company A sells to company B, the group company didn't sell to the outside world, right? The money stayed basically within the family only. So BC states, or even any financial system states that eliminations are manual after the consolidation, because individual companies only have to report like which is part of the elimination entries and all these things and all. So they have to find that entries and then provide that information so that it would be eliminated by the group company. So this is the only entry parent company would be keying in. So before getting into that, I'll also explain. So in terms of elimination, we will post eliminations in the group or the consolidation parent company only. So the subsidiary remains legally correct, right? Like we don't want to touch the subsidiary companies and then say like, hey, you cannot sell to the other subsidiary company like that. But in the parent company, we are going to do the cleanup activity. We are not going to considering the profit in multiple companies when there is a sale happening between companies, right? So already we are speaking too much, so I just wanted to slightly break up into entries into the screen and then get into the system before posting it. So consider in subsidiary company A or Singapore, so there was a transaction, intercompany receivable. Basically what we are trying to say is like the revenue happened in company SG, and then there was a payable happened in US, right? So if that's the case, what we are going to do is in the parent group company, we are going to consider the revenue to be adjusted and then the expenses to be adjusted. So that's what we are going to do. So what we are going to do is we will post eliminations and we will see like how it goes further. So let's see that. And to do that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to the consolidation company. In the consolidation company, I'm going to the general journal. Journal is an area where you're going to create some entries, transactions, and then it will be finally converted and created as a ledger entries. Okay, so here I've created a batch like a page to show that information, like a trial room. You can have information in multiple trial rooms, right? Okay, so basically to keep it short, I've created these entries. After the long session, I don't want to, you to focus much on these areas, like how is that adjustment happening, which I given in that scenario screen. So what we are going to do here is basically to remove the profit from respective company in the consolidation itself, so that the reporting finally created would be the actual value only. So what I've done here is like I'm creating two entries. So the document number is different, you can see here. So when I'm creating line 1 and 2, it belongs to the same. So what I'm doing is like intercompany sale and intercompany expense. So I'm considering there was a sale in intercompany sales, and then the expense was eliminated. There was a intercompany payable, and this intercompany payable is happening in US based company, right? And that would be defined in the business unit areas. Suppose if you wanted to track, you can enter those information in the business unit area, then you would be able to capture it. So likewise, we have created it, and then finally we are going to post this information. Before that, I can do preview posting. Okay, maybe some mistake in the yeah, I have also entered the balancing account number here, right? Okay, so let's try it again. Yeah, all went through. Right. So these are all the features available in Business Central's consolidation process. So we have covered about the topics related to consolidation mapping, and then business units, and then about um, posting the actual entries, and then we saw about how the entries are pulled into the consolidation company. We also saw about there's a feature about testing those entries before actually posting it. And finally, about like suppose if subsidiary companies and all operating on the same umbrella, there would be some intercompany transactions which shouldn't be considered as a uh, double profit or like double expenses. So we need to do some elimination. So those things are also we covered under this today's topic. So with that, I end today's session. Thank you all for the session. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. What a section. Very, very informative. I think we all learned something from that. That was very good. There's different ways of doing this, but obviously that's a good best practice that Saravanan has shown there. And the reason why it's good practice is because it reduces duplicate postings, right? One of the biggest problems with ERP systems is are the postings that basically throttle the database. Yeah. So we need to be very efficient in the way we set up our configurations and transaction postings, and that's the way you do it, right? Ideally, you do it using consolidation entity instead. So on to the next session now. Our next speaker is struggling to connect. Let's just see if he's connected. I'm just going to check if Steve Chinksy is still online because we may get Steve to do his session if he's not busy. Steve Chinksy is actually offline now, I think. Steve, let's see if Steve Chinksy is here. Steve Chinksy, where are you? There you are. Ah, he looks like he's busy. Obviously we definitely want this session because it's on warehouse management, which I'm sure you're all gasping to learn about. Hi, Steve. Any chance you could start? Okay. So one thing I'll try and do in the meantime. See, Manjula. Let's try and get Manjula in here. Manjula. Okay. No, can't do that. So Manjula is struggling to connect. She's having limitations with her Teams, but to be honest, there's been a lot of security updates on Teams lately, making it a lot more difficult to connect. I think a couple of people had problems today connecting. And Steve stepped into the start. I mean, it'll be great if Steve can start now, but it looks like he's. Do you know what? I'm trying to pull him in. A bit cheeky, but let's see what happens. See what happens. Can get his attention. If you can pull him in, it'll be really good. In the meantime, please feel free to. Oh, hey, Steve joined us. Hey, Steve. Steve has joined us. Fantastic. Wow. What a legend. Hey, Steve.
There we go.
Hi,
Now I can talk.
Steve, you legend. Basically, Manjula is struggling to connect. He's having some Teams issues. I was wondering, would you be up for starting a bit earlier?
Oh, by all means, I'm totally available. Hi, everybody. I'll throw my face on there for 30 seconds. So I'm in my dungeon, as you can tell. I'm in my but yeah, I can start early. Absolutely.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we'll obviously give you some time. We'll give you some time to get ready. Obviously, I didn't want to put you.
No, I'm ready. I have
you
everything.
got. Oh my!
Yeah, I'm totally
legend.
ready, waiting because I was going to join in about 10 minutes, about a quarter.
Yeah.
Give myself 15 minutes to listen in and go, but I can start now. I'm fine when you're ready.
Legendary Steve. Okay, well, it's over to you. So for those who haven't met Steve before, he's been a regular speaker for Business Central Bootcamp. He's from the USA. Whereabouts in the USA are you from, actually, Steve?
I'm south of Boston, so Boston, Massachusetts. So it is cold outside today, about 40s, but the snow is melting, so I'm very happy about that. I'm sick of seeing the white stuff. We got hit pretty badly last couple of weeks, so I'm glad it's getting warm.
Okay, fantastic. Now we can't see you. I don't know what's happened here. We can't see you.
Let me turn my camera.
There you are. We can see you now. We can see you now. Yeah. Cool. So if you can share your screen when you're ready, and then so Steve, he's been covering these topics. Last year he covered I think he covered a similar topic, or I think it was manufacturing, I think it was, or warehouse. But yeah, there we go, Steve. We can see a screen now. You can see a screen.
I'm gonna turn my camera off to get the better bandwidth, so that way nobody can look at my face. And
no worries, Steve. I'll do the same then. Without further ado, guys, a great way to wrap up for today. So this is going to be our last session for today. It's been a long day for everyone, and this is a perfect way to wrap up on warehouse management. So without further ado, over to the legendary Steve. Sure,
Thanks,
Steve.
Guy. Thanks, Raj. Guys, I really appreciate talking again at Bootcamp. This year is warehousing, so understanding the warehousing configurations. We'll have a little fun going over it, and let me keep moving forward. So again, we're doing understanding warehouse configurations in Business Central. Yes, that's my Lego figure, though it's got a lot more hair than I do. I don't know why, but maybe Lego had a problem with their ink in manufacturing over in Billund at the factory in Billund in Denmark. This is me in real life. You saw me 30 seconds ago, but that is my face. I am a Microsoft MVP. I'm a practice VP of the practice for a company called L&L Consulting. If you need to get a hold of me, that is my phone number. That is my email. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on the BC3 Amigos YouTube channel. You can always email me there as well or contact me. I've been doing this for 28 years. So I was around when it was Navision. And also I implement, and 17 years before that, I worked for companies like Pepsi, Amazon, VP of finance, audit managers, things like that. So I have accounting and operational background. So the subjects of manufacturing and supply chain and anything in Business Central, I love, because obviously you can see I've been doing this for so long. It's a passion of mine. All right, enough about me. What are we going to talk about today? I love having fun in warehousing. It's just a real fun area. There's a lot you can do with it. There's so much information that's available to you, and the options are endless now with a lot of the changes that came forth in recent waves and updates. So today we're going to really decide what kind of configurations make sense for you. We're going to kind of understand the difference between basic functionality and advanced functionality. We'll understand the different classes of the warehousing configuration. We'll learn how the location configuration options impacts the warehouse documents themselves. And then we'll also learn how to use various warehouse documents, such as the warehouse shipment, pick, and movements. Now, there's a lot here, and don't get me wrong here. We're not going to go, we're going to pass through a lot of these, and there's slides, and we only have an hour here. So I'm going to be respectful of your time, given everybody's all around the world at different time zones. And, obviously it's my afternoon here, 1 p.m. Eastern time. So let's start off. What is warehouse management? What is WMS? What does it mean to you personally? And there's a lot of things to worry about here. It's just a tool. I mean, really, it's a tool to how to understand how your business wants to operate the warehouse. Do I want to operate it as willy-nilly, meaning just, hey, wing it, paper, print out as much paper as possible. Don't worry about it. We'll get the thing going here, and life is grand. And maybe the inventory can reconcile, and maybe it cannot, or maybe I know where things are, and maybe not. But obviously, that's not the approach you're going to take. So for obvious reasons, we're going to basically look at Business Central and try to set up the warehouse the way the business wants to operate. And it's very important to know, how does the business want to operate in the warehouse, meaning talk to a warehouse manager. I need to speak to how the warehouse operator or warehouse employee is going to run around. Am I using handhelds? Do I like paper? Am I using both? I mean, do I have to do things in a very specific order, meaning I have internal controls or international compliance reasons or SOX compliance for public companies? And therefore, you'll go into Business Central and you'll look at basic versus advanced. Each one of those statements changes the way Business Central works. Now, basic is exactly like it says. It's basic, but guess what? With all the new changes that have just happened, basic is kind of like basic, like I'm a baby basic. There's basic, maybe, oh, wow, I've gotten some really great ice cream, meaning I'm at level 1 basic. Maybe there's, oh my God, basic on steroids, because there's a little more features you can throw in there without have to going advanced. And the fact that advanced means, it says what it means. It's advanced. Advanced puts you into a whole new light. And we'll talk about that in a second. I don't really want to get into that. But a couple of things to note. I love talking about add-ons that are available to extend Business Central. And this year, I want to talk about it here at the very beginning before we kind of dig deep. So there's plenty of add-ons out there that take Business Central to the next level. And not knowing everybody's business, not knowing what you do in the warehouse. For me, it's all about getting away from paper. First of all, the handheld devices today, they're all different shapes and sizes. I have one here in front of me that's a gun, the gun level version where it's like a handheld with almost like a pistol grip. I've got one that looks like a phone, a cellular phone that's larger, but it's lighter. I have a tablet that also can do the warehouse. So there's so many features now with all of our apps that are out there that can take it to the next level between picking, receiving, shipping, picking, put away, cycle counting, physical inventories. You can even do production output and production consumption and movements and replenishments. So there's so much you can do with that handheld device or that smaller device that's not a laptop, that you should really reevaluate what you want to do for your warehouse. I'm going to tell you the handheld devices are I don't want to say they're relatively inexpensive. They're not a few $100. They start roughly about $800. I think the lowest model I've seen so far is about $800, and they can go as high as $3,000. It just depends on the features and functionality and what, can I drop it from 6 feet in the air? Can I drop it from 20 feet in the air? Can it go into a cooler, a refrigerator, cooler area, an ice cooler? I mean, there's so many features with them that you investigate them. But let me explain one big thing here, why I'm harping on this. The number one thing here is it eliminates paper. It makes the user so happy that the documents will appear right in front of them on their handheld, and they can just do a couple of scannings against barcodes like bins. You can scan an item. You can scan even a serial number or a lot number if you're doing item tracking. And you can do this all with a few clicks and post the document. No more paper. No more carrying a pen or a pencil around to have to write things. No more handing it back to your boss at the end of the day saying, I did this. Everything is seamless with inside of an automated mobile device. And what's even nicer is that in most of these cases, as you're picking, you then go into packing. You can almost do like a pick-pack methodology and take it to a packing station and ship it out the door. So again, these apps take it to a whole nother level, and it's really, really pleasant that these are available to us. They've been around for many years. A lot of them have great reference points. You can play with them in a trial for free. Some of them even offer you, sending you possible handheld devices temporarily to play with them and then return them if you don't want them. So again, try this out. I'm a big believer in paperless right now. Obviously with the fact that we have agents and we've got also the document management within Business Central, getting away from that whole storing paper is a love right now. Okay, I've harped enough about how, what WS is. I've harped about the basic and advanced, but let's dig deeper. I mean, I have no idea what it is, Steve. You really haven't shown me anything yet. So let's go dig deeper into the basic and advanced. Let's go forth, and then we'll get to a demo where we can actually see all this in action inside of Business Central. All right. So advanced versus basics. Obviously, what is the big difference? It's one word. It's almost like I want to sit there and be like a commercial. It's one word. And really what we're talking about here is that the whole advanced is the directed pick and put away. Now, the funny thing about this is several years back, they added a couple of features to actually steal some of those features out of the word advanced and almost give you a choice. Well, you don't have to be advanced. You could be basic on steroids. So right now what you're looking at here, and I'm going to use my mouse to kind of use it as like a pointing device. There's multiple levels of basic to get you to get you to the quietly to advanced. Without clicking directed pick and put away, which is over here where my mouse is sliding back and forth, it's not turned on. I can actually implement layers of advance slowly or take it to a level where I only want to do maybe 2 pieces of advance and nothing else. So let's talk about that in brief right now, and then we'll go into Business Central and talk more. So obviously, you can require receipts. This is a warehouse receipt document that you can actually implement and use if you'd like, that actually formalizes the purchase order receipt process. In addition to purchase order receipts, remember, if a customer returns something to you, that's a sales return order. So you can actually do a sales return order receipt because both of them have to come into your business, into the location in the warehouse. I can do a shipment. Obviously, I can ship out sales documents. I can ship out vendor return documents as well when you do a purchase return order where I'm actually returning vendor material back to the vendor. I can require a put away. Now, some people say, well, that's advanced, Steve. Why am I doing put aways? Well, it really helps formalize the process of how you like to put things away. So, for instance, I receive them into inventory, and the next thing I want to do is I want to put it away on one of the bins or shelves somewhere in my warehouse. And I can formalize the process by configuring that feature of put away. I can make put away templates, which can define where to put them away, maybe an item or a specific group of items, but I can actually force the receiver or maybe somebody in the warehouse to come pick up my receipted goods and put them away using a warehouse put away document. And last but not least, this last choice that's turned on as true is the pick. And we obviously, for the pick, we can do obviously a shipment pick from a warehouse shipment document, a production order pick. I think we should do production order picks. How about an assembly pick? I want to do a warehouse assembly pick because I'm doing assembly orders inside of Business Central. Now, with all those special words or special documents I mentioned, production orders, which is obviously manufacturing, assembly orders, and last but not least, I don't like to forget about them, but I know it says jobs, but it is called projects, and the name is, obviously the name was changed, but it needs to be updated. But here you can actually define if I'm going to make the pick required on these three functional areas. Do I want production to do a warehouse pick? And I've told it, absolutely, I want it to be mandatory. Do I want production output to have a warehouse, like say, put away document where I'm putting away the output back onto the shelf? I don't have to. That's why the word no is here. You have your option drop downs to pick from. We'll show you that in a second inside of our demo shortly. The same are true for assembly consumption and, of course, project consumption, the pick. And I've made them both all mandatory. Why? Because I think it's a proper procedure for a warehouse worker who runs around with maybe a pallet jack, a forklift or something. He or she will run around and go get those items from maybe a parts bin or the warehouse and bring them back to the person who's actually doing a production order in a work center or a machine center, an assembly order maybe back in an assembly area where there's people who are doing the work, and they're going to bring it back and give it to them in their staging area, and then they'll consume those items. Same old true for projects as well. Now, a couple of other things I want to talk about on this screen because I don't want to lose sight of them is bin mandatory, and we'll talk about bin mandatory in a second. We'll talk about advanced on the next slide because I really want to talk about more about it, advanced. Here's my put away worksheet to use it or not use it. You don't need a put away worksheet as I talked about over here. You can actually just put things away almost like a manual process where you want to set up your bins and the bins kind of will default to where the item will go, at least as a suggestion. Now, outbound warehouse handling time, inbound warehouse handling time. I bet you dollars for donuts that nobody even knows about this field. And the reason I say it so confidently is that every time I've ever talked about warehousing, every time I've visited a customer around, wherever, I've always asked them like, hey, how long does it take you to kind of like receive the goods on the dock and get around to actually putting it away? And some people say it could take 24 hours sometimes because by the time they get to it, because they're running around doing other work. So the inbound warehouse handling time and the outbound warehouse handling time allows Business Central to apply those two date factors when trying to figure out a shipment date, a requested receipt date, an availability date for manufacturing, when the goods are available to bring into a manufacturing order. It knows it needs to allow for those extra days so the warehouse can do their job before somebody else can use it and do something with the actual item. So if you've ever had problems where, shoot, Steve, that sounds so cool. You mean I can add an extra day to kind of buffer my warehouse people? Absolutely. Give them a buffer. Don't let them run around like a bunch of chickens, with their heads cut off. I mean, allow them to go in and give them a little buffer here to do their job before a document kind of needs that item. And that's what this outbound and inbound is. Base calendar, if you've never set up your base calendar, please, 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 please set up your base. Base calendar is what days of the week am I open? When do I start work? And when do I end work? It helps with planning. It helps with the date calculations to know that, hey, if I'm not open on a Saturday or Sunday, then I can't receive something on a Saturday or Sunday. It'll move to move forward to Monday maybe. But at least make a base calendar with your holidays and stuff like that. Okay, next slide. So a nice piece here about when we're starting off with basic. I tell everybody when you're defining your location card and you really truly want to think about what to actually click and pick in all of this, understand the impact on the warehouse operator. What will the warehouse operator be doing if I choose receipt, require receipt? What will they be doing if I say that on a release production order, I will consume using a warehouse pick? Think about the warehouse worker. Understand the impact of them, whether if I'm going paperless with a handheld or whether it's just a piece of paper where I'm doing a pick. Then pick and choose the ones you want. Start off slow. You don't have to. If you just want to try a warehouse require receive, then do that. If you want to add pick later, do that. You can do that. There are some settings for which if you do check them, you can't uncheck them. So understand, if I pick bin mandatory, I'm stuck with bin mandatory because I have bins and there are transactions with bins. I can't get rid of those transactions with bins. So the location itself is kind of like locked down to a degree. So to avoid confusion, always, always, always understand, each of the choices you're going to pick and then kind of do one at a time. If you truly know this is what you want, obviously set them all up. That's fine. But again, if you're very curious, if you kind of want to see the flow and the impact in Business Central, what documents print out or how the steps are, then you can do them one at a time. Start with receive, then do this one, then do this, and so on and so forth. Again, if you pick bin mandatory, if you start any process, you cannot reverse this because all items came in with bins. So again, kind of crawl, walk, run here in a way when I'm starting with the basics. And again, with the directed pick and put away off, I can configure any document and any process. So you can see them, how they're all working in action. And they all mean something in terms of its process. So let's talk about that. So what does each setting mean? I mean, in plain Jane terminology in Business Central, what I love about this is everything has a cause and effect. So let's start with the basics here. If require shipment is turned off, and require pick is turned off, or require shipment is turned on and required pick is turned off, it means that various things can happen in different ways. Again, production, assembly, and jobs, you can make the warehouse pick optional if you don't want it to be there, meaning you want it to be paper. So everything will be printed on a piece of paper. It's all going to be done on paper. So realize that different things can cause different. So if both of these are turned off, okay, shipment and pick, then then this is off. If this is turned on, require ship is on, and require pick is off, again, you can make it optional here. You can throw it, you can actually do it here for the documents. So even though shipment is turned on and required pick is turned off, I am allowed to enforce the fact that I want my documents to have a pick, meaning I want a pick to happen with a production order, an assembly order, or a project order journal. Now, when required shipment is turned off and required pick is turned on, again, you can do other ways. For instance, I can use what I call the inventory pick and movement journals. I don't have to make it a formal warehouse document. So therefore, I can actually just use the journals. It's called inventory pick journal and a movement journal. And I can do the same here for the assembly and the same for the projects as well. Now, is there one better than the other? Again, it goes back to the warehouse. It goes back to the customer. It goes back to your business, your operations. If you like warehouse documents, which I do like, and the reason I do like them, some people say, well, that's an extra step, Steve. It's a pain in the you-know-what, Steve. Well, not really. I mean, it is, but in reality, it gives a great internal control. It allows for everything to be very smooth and clean, documented, and it's a very formal process. And it's a very easy one that everybody learns over time. Most companies will have a very formal process anyway in the warehouse. They'll probably have shipment documents, they'll have pick documents. They'll tell you ahead of time. And you know your business best. You know your customer best, depending on who's on this call. So pick and choose the process that's right for you. Never worry about the fact that you can play and set a process up. You can hate it. And guess what? With Business Central, you can make a copy of something in a sandbox. You can restart all over again. Make another copy, start all over. Make a new location. Try that setting. You can have 10 locations to try each different setting one way or not. But the idea is to pick the right one that's best for you. Now, one last thing I want to mention, when I do turn require shipments on and require pick is turned on, then everything becomes mandatory. No matter what, if I set require pick on, then any document that's going to do picking is going to become mandatory. When I have it turned off, I'm more telling it I will use the basic process of inventory pick journal, inventory pick, movement journals. I'll use the journal system, not the warehouse system. The mandatory throws it into a state of the warehouse document. Whereas up here, when I had require shipment turned on at the top section and pick was turned off, it became an optional warehouse document. You can do that because I've set in motion that I want to still use a warehouse process. Okay. If there are questions, by all means, please set them out. I know I'm looking at my slides here. I will do if Raj sees them, he'll mention it. But if you do have a question, unmute yourself. I have no problem stopping along the way at all. Okay. Now, we talked about the warehouse handling of internal operations. There are many operations here that could affect the overall process. And I want you to be aware of them when it comes to warehousing. Why? Because it's a fact of life. These processes, these internal operations are going to affect time, and it's going to affect processing. It's going to affect how Business Central calculates a date. It's going to affect how long maybe in between an I need to get something into a manufacturing order when it has to come from a purchase order receipt or from maybe an assembly. So things happen here. So always be aware of the warehouse handling of the internal operations because they affect your production, your projects, and your assembly. And I'm telling you for a fact, make sure that if you need time, if the warehouse needs time to do their job, don't just do nothing here. Put the time in. Allow the warehouse to actually do their job correctly, and the items and material will get received in or processed in a timely fashion that has to go to the next stage. The more you don't fill this in, the more it expects things, for a fact, if you enter an item and you buy an item from a vendor and you put no lead time, it thinks you're going to get that item today because it's like, I'm coming in today. And that's impossible because you got to pick up the phone, call the vendor. The vendor says 2 weeks and it'll be in 2 weeks. Well, yes, you might have a purchase order that says a receipt in 2 weeks, but these little handling times, if it comes into the warehouse today being Wednesday, it comes in today, it takes a full 24 hours before somebody can take it off the shelf and ship it. And with that said, I want to set up some warehouse handling time. In this slide, I'm not going to go through every single field here, but overall, it actually shows you what happens when you set up all your warehouse handling time. In the production world, it actually tells you, if I don't have any warehouse handling, you can set it to nothing. There's the pick optional. You saw that availability. This is for a compatibility, with obviously a lot of your existing behavior when you want to do the warehouse pick. I harped on it on the last slide that the warehouse pick is the best for compatibility to the business. Now, the inventory movement ones is more, helpful for people who need to have various flushing scenarios and need to push things through. And the warehouse pick mandatory means that you set the pick to mandatory, require it. And again, you can see it tells you each one of the different choices or what you can do in warehouse handling for the production consumption, for the production output, for assembly consumption, and of course, project consumption or job consumption. These are your options. These tell you what you can and can't do to help you along to kind of fulfill the obligation of how you want to run the warehouse business. Going to pause here for a second. Okay. My favorite one is bin mandatory, obviously, because I love bins. I think bins are pretty cool in Business Central. I think of it as the accounting department, the internal control department, the warehouse manager, the purchasing staff. This is a way to enable you to have the best inventory control in your organization by having items classified into bins. And I know it sounds funny, but if you don't really have a bin, a physical looking kind of bin, or you have like a shelf, or you have maybe a couple of filing cabinets, whatever it is, everything can be called a bin, and therefore store the inventory items so I know where to find them. I know how many I have on hand, and I know how many I need to buy if I'm using some of the planning parameters on the item card, which I believe somebody went over earlier today. But it is important to obviously check the box if you want bin mandatory, turn it on to be true. And also, if you're really not doing bins, if you don't really want to do the bin control because you're not going to count them, you could always on the item card use a shelf number field. It is super informational. I love people who do this for, like, say, nuts and bolts, things they don't want to count, those small, really small washers, nuts, bolts, little things they never want to count because they might expense it. Well, guess what? You don't need to put it into a bin. It's a non-inventory item type, but you can use a shelf. And you can actually go out there, and if you can want to send somebody out to look at those items, you can, because it's a non-inventory item, and they can go look at the shelf and maybe replenish the shelf once a month or something like that. Now, I want to summarize all this because we're going to get into demo mode right after this. And I want to summarize everything about why I've been talking about bins, locations, the settings within the locations. I like to talk about the inventory structure. And it is very important to know that, as a company, you have your location, which is your warehouse. You can have multiple warehouses as well. And within a location, you could have a zone, and within a zone, you can have a bin. Now, that's very advanced to have zones and bins, where people actually want to segment the warehouse to, like, receiving zone, shipping zone, picking zone, bulk zone, quality assurance zone, production zone, and you can create all these zones and the bins within. A cool thing that recently happened this past year for me was I was at a customer, and they had a manufacturing plant, 7 different machines. So 7 different work centers / machines that actually did different things. And one of the things they wanted to make sure was that when the production order was released to the floor, that the warehouse worker would run and go get the merchandise for them, and they want to overpick. And that's, available to you today, as you know, with some of the recent changes in Business Central. But they like to overpick because what they want to do is they want to bring everything back in front of the machine in their private production work center picking bin, that they go and put it in that bin so that it's consumed from that bin for each of the different machine lines. And what was so cool is that they always overpicked because the items they were always picking were very repetitive. So instead of them running back and forth and back and forth, because maybe one production order takes 2 hours. Well, guess what? The next production order, they might have to go back and get 1 or 2 of those same items anyway. So instead of them being a yo-yo, they created a bin within the production area for each of the different work centers, and they consumed a whole bunch of production orders against that bin. When the day was done, the warehouse operator was required to put, obviously, anything left over back into the picking area and unpick those items, which is definitely possible inside of Business Central. So what this diagram is really showing us is the fact that I have locations, zones, and bins, and within there, I can have an item master, which could include a variant if you had necessary. You can add the variant into this whole mix, which then can obviously equal a stock keeping unit if you have multiple locations. One of the things to note, and it is a thing about the variant thing here, is zones were only available for directed pick and put away before Business Central 22 when it related to the variant and the stock keeping unit. Now the bottom picture where I have everything in purple, the reason I do have everything in purple here is because I've gone advanced and I've created my item master with my zone and bin, and within the bin content, because I don't have a stock keeping unit, that's where I'm defining everything, because I'm not doing it at a stock keeping unit level. I'm just looking at it from a bin content level. All right, enough talking. Steve's had enough fun chatting about this. I think it's demo time. I really want to go in and talk about what we've kind of discussed, and then kind of look to the future and kind of extend our thoughts into what we should do when we are setting bins up. So let's go in, let's look at the location card, let's talk about the various documents, and let's do a couple of transactions. All right, going to bring up my Business Central. Hopefully everybody can see it. Should be visible to you. Nice and easy here. I'm going to first open my location card because that's my most important place to go to. So I'm going to go to locations. I'm going to pick 2 locations today. My first location I'm going to pick is called blue, and probably going to go into blue and green. And then my next location is going to be called white. So first I'm going to open up blue real simple. And you can say this is a basic location while it's spinning and thinking. Of course, the gerbil's not moving fast enough in our sandboxes. But as you look in the warehouse fast tab, and if you scroll down the bin fast tab and the bin policy fast tab, in here, I can do all my settings. Now, nothing is set here except for a production consumption where I want to do a warehouse pick, where it's optional. That's all I set. There's nothing else. I mean, my assembly, my project, all have the same setting, but nothing else is set. No bin mandatory, no required for the purchase, sales, service, or transfer documents, no calendar set. It's very bland, very basic, but I've given it a little flair. Obviously, I've taken it to another level because I said, hey, I do want to do a warehouse pick on these 3 document areas. Now, if I come off blue and I go to, say, main, I added a require receipt here with bin mandatory. So that means that every transaction, a purchase order receipt, a sales shipment, a movement within the building, a pick, must have a bin for those inventory items. Again, that's inventory type items. Non-inventory type items and service type items don't have anything with regard to the location or the actual bins or anything like that. So this is a setting that I could do. Maybe I just want bins and receipts. And the nice part is, down below, I can set my default bin where everything goes. So I can set everything to receive into one bin, and then my operator can then move it out of that bin into maybe where it's going to be on the shelf so I can ship it later on. Now, if I want to take this really crazy further, I can open up my white location, and in my white location, the directed pick and put away is turned on. What does this all mean now? By turning this on, if I flip this switch, that's it. It's one and done. Meaning by checking this box, it grays out all of these fields, 5 fields automatically. They're gray. You have no option. It's if you pick this, you must do these 5. If you want to do the put away worksheet, if I want it to be more predefined, more directed, more actually telling the operator, the warehouse operator, where to put things away, I can use a put away worksheet. However, in directed pick and put away, it's also going to be predefined based on whether you have a fixed bin for an item, whether I have a default bin where things go for an item, and again, based on the zones as well. You can define your zone and bin. Obviously, I don't have outbound warehouse handling time. Shame on me. I told you guys to do it. Well, why shouldn't I do it? So I can actually pick 1 day here and 1 day here to add an additional day. If I got my base calendar for my white location, again, go in and put in my base calendar here, or maybe I have a location, maybe this location is over in the UK. I can pick my GB base national calendar. I'll pick my base here. A lot of people see this word cross-docking, and not many people know what it means. The nice part about this cross-docking is this. If you work in a good warehouse for which the people on the receiving dock know they're receiving purchase orders in, but they also know they're waiting on things to go out. There's like a pause almost, for which the warehouse worker who's the shipping can't really fulfill because he's waiting for goods to come in the door. There is a cross-stocking feature in Business Central where you can actually go out and see if items need to be cross-stocked on for receipted goods. So maybe I'm receiving in the infamous coffee pot in Kronos, and that coffee pot comes in, but it's waiting for a shipment to go out the door. You can actually look into that just by looking at whether you're in a handheld, you can see it, or you can actually see it in Business Central when you're doing your receipts. You can actually see items that need to be cross-stocked. Love this feature. And it's also the cross-doc calculation here. It's like things that are due within 1 week will appear within the documents. That's if I'm doing this more as a calculation basis. Now, you'll notice my bin fast tab for my white location is pretty filled in. I've got my bin for when I'm doing receipts, my bin for shipments. Think of this as a staging bin, if you'd like. I have my open shop floor bin for my production orders, my two where I'm going to the production bin, where I'm going from the production bin, like output and consumption, and open floor, where people can go to a staging bin and consume goods from an open shop floor bin. I've got my cross-dock bin where my receipted good will go from here to a cross-dock bin to then be shipped out in reverse back to the shipping bin. I have my assembly bins and, of course, a project bin if I wanted one. One thing to note, all of these are pre-set up, and I'll show you that in another second here. Here, I wanted to mention the bin policies down below. A couple of things to talk about. Bin capacity policy is very simple. No bin can hold 1 million pounds. Therefore, if you want to prohibit a max capacity of a bin weight, you can set that forth and set the bin's weight or the volume weight on the bin itself. So it will never, the Business Central will restrict the fact that it will not keep putting things into a bin if you're going to exceed the weight of the bin, the capacity. The word break bulk means I bring in a pallet of 100 items. I only need 25. What happens is Business Central will look at that pallet and say, oh, I got to break this bulky item of 100, put aside 25 and put back 50 individual, put back 75 units back into the system that's not on a pallet. Or maybe it is on the pallet. Maybe you're doing license plating. Warehouse class. If you do set a warehouse class up for an item, please be aware of the fact that when putting goods away, it's going to look at a warehouse class when it thinks of putting things away. So if you want to get into the warehouse class, that means you're defining each item into a specific warehouse class. That means it's going to have almost like a pick or a put away rule based on that warehouse class or designation. Okay, I told you I'd show you this, but under the zones, I can have as many zones as I want. I like to kind of draw this out as a map or blueprint for my warehouse, my customer. I do you have to have an adjustment bin, obviously, when you do adjustments. I have a bulk area, a cross-dock bin, a picking zone, a production zone, a quality assurance zone, a receiving shipping, and a staging zone. I can even stage things as well. All of these help the Business Central warehouse processes move smoothly through the building. I come in the building and I get received. From receive, I get put away maybe into a picking zone or maybe a bulk zone. My production orders need to go and pick things in a picking zone. When I'm consuming in my bin within my production zone. I'm shipping out something, so therefore from shipping, I'll go pick it, and then I'll let it go out the door, or maybe I stage it, depending on what I'm doing here. And also quality assurance, if you're a company that has food and beverage, if you're a company that has regulatory issues, and you need to set aside everything received into a quality bin to be reviewed and tested, you can have a quality assurance area before you can pick, because I'm only letting people pick when I see the word pick. I can only put away things when I'm putting things away. So you can see there's actually almost like a bin type that regulates the movement of the items within. And we can rank our bins depending upon how we want to pick. Where do we go first to pick? Where do we go second to pick? Where do we go third to pick? Under each one of these, I'm just going to show you this once just to blow it open, is all my bins. And again, I have a good handful of bins here. I've got my cubage that tells me how much weight I can have within that bin. Obviously, my bin ranks, which means where am I going to pick first, second, third of that bin. I can dedicate a bin to a specific item. I can also define these items in terms of what's in it just by looking at the contents within, and it's telling me I've got these 2 items in the bin and how much quantity is in that bin. And if it's fixed or defaulted or dedicated to a specific item. If it's fixed to this item, only this item goes here. You can have multiple bins fixed to that. If it's dedicated to an item, it means that the bin itself is just for one item. That's normally what it means. Nothing else should really be here. All right, gang. We talked about, again, the location card. We talked about the various features within the location card of how we can move things around. And we talked about bins, and I still want to talk about bins a little bit longer, and then I want to go transact something. So I'm going to step back onto my PowerPoint, if you don't mind. I'll pick up where we left off. And I want to set these thoughts in your head. Here I am, and in basic warehousing, the bin selection is, it's a question mark. It's a giant question mark. It's a thought. Regardless of the warehouse of inventory document, am I really going to want bin selection? If I go bins, you're effectively having to fill that field in all the time, every time I do a document. So it's mandatory. If I want to stay basic and I don't want people bogged down with it, then use shelf. I mean, if it can be printed on any document with the shelf number from the item card, but it won't have that debilitating effect where if you're entering something, if you forget to put the bin number in, you're going to get an error message. So these are thoughts to think about. Just because I say bins is great, and I do believe that, but really, really think about this, how it's going to impact the user and the warehouse worker. Put away from 2, fix bins, last bin. What that means is you saw me on the bins. You saw the fact that I can set up a default bin. I can set up a dedicated bin. I can set up fixed, default, and dedicated. And that really means, what do I want my operator to see? If I set a fixed bin, it's going to tell them to go there. If I want to set a default bin, then basically it might be the last one it found, in the process, and available because it has open space to do a pick to or a put away to. So it's important to know, how do I want to set up my bins? Am I classifying certain items that have to be on the floor because the weight is so massive they have to be on the concrete floor, or are they allowed to go up higher and be on the racks? So again, these are things that you set fixed, default, and dedicated. Some additional things to think about here, and these are important when you're really thinking about setting up your warehouse. Again, that dedicated bin, that to me means I've got something super, super large or super heavy, and I'm going to put it in one area. Or for instance, here's a great example. How many of you have been to a factory for which, you've got refrigerated goods? Well, guess what? That fridge needs to be dedicated. Only things that need to go in a fridge will be dedicated to that. Or a freezer, for instance. Or maybe something that's cryogenic, where it's actually had to be stored in dry ice or something, or something frozen. I have to dedicate a certain item to go there because that's the way it needs to be. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's going there every single time to be picked or put away. And of course, those default bins. If you're going to do any of the warehousing processes, require receipt, require shipment, and you're thinking about, if you're doing that, then you're probably going to do bin mandatory. Therefore, set up your default warehouse bins. Don't just say, the heck with it. Put a default bin for shipping and receiving at a minimum, because at least you have one bin to work with for receiving and one to work with for shipping to get everything out the door. Last but not least, bin selection or bin management is a big factor on what you're going to do when you're going to go basic or advanced. That bin that bin truly is like a lifeline when it comes to people who want to know where things are for inventory control, for physical inventories, for cycle counting. If you're not going to use bins, then what's the point? You won't know where anything is in the warehouse. I mean, I know shelf is a great thing. I truly believe it. The shelf number field's been around since the dawn of when Division was first came out, way back when. And you can print it on every document, and that's fine. You don't need to make anything formal. If that's as far as you want to go and you're happy with that, stick with the basics, stick with no bin management, and just move forward with that shelf printing on all your documents. When you finally get into almost a formal process, whether you're using a handheld, whether you want to go automated picks, automated putaways, really adding on all those beautiful features we just went through, then bin mandatory is a necessity, in my opinion. And again, checking that one little box, that one tiny box I showed you on the white location, it forces all the options to be enabled. It turns on zones. Now, people say, whoa, wait a minute, Steve, what are you talking about? Well, when you don't have directed pick and put away on, zones is not required. It's not even necessary. You can create bins without it. And, zones are there for the directed pick and put away concept. If I need to know how to direct my user, I'm dummy proofing the warehouse now. If I'm going to dummy proof the warehouse, how do I tell somebody where to go and what to do if I don't define my zones and bins within it? So by defining those zones you saw, I'm telling it, this is a put away zone. This is a pick zone. This is both a pick and put away zone. This is a receiving zone or a QC zone. And I'm telling them what to do with these zones and what to do with the bins within. So that's why the word enables zones and bins is on. But when you do basic, it's not on. Obviously, you're going to optimize the warehouse. The performance alone in a directed pick and put away environment is very high. It's been proven. A lot of statistics out there in the industry. Obviously, it disconnects the warehouse from the inventory subledger because you're using the warehouse ledger in conjunction with the inventories and in conjunction with inventory itself. It allows for multiple units of measure. How many people on this call here, okay, whereby you have a item that could be in a pallet, a box, and an each? That's 3 units of measure. That's 3 different item units of measure conversions. Well, guess what? I can store things in a pallet with a warehouse environment. I can store things in a box. I can store things as an each. And I can see that with my warehousing documentation and how the put away is done, how the pick is done, and I can pick and pull things in different units of measure if necessary. I'm going to skip the rest because we kind of went over that before, but obviously all of these features become more and more available to you, and you can actually set those in motion. And last but not least, it does enforce a very specific process. So if you've never been around this before, if you want to try it, by all means, please do so in like a sandbox Kronos database, but don't just jump into directed pick and put away expecting things without actually playing with it first. And the only reason you should select directed pick and put away is because the same item can be in multiple bins. Like you have picking bins, overstock bins, bulk bins. You saw me have a bulk area and a picking area. I'll give you a story here. I have a customer who's got a 500,000 square foot distribution center. It is massive. Think about that number. Okay, that is huge. That is like one of those distribution centers you see on the highway when you're driving by like an Amazon or somebody. Those are these big distribution centers, and they have so many zones. They have bulk zones. They have bulk zones that go into replenishment zones. Replenishment zones go into pick zones. They have receiving and shipping zones. They have cross-docking zones. They have actually zones on various heights because it goes 3 stories high in the actual building. The racking goes 3 stories high. So you actually climb stairs depending on what they're doing. And they're actually picking things based on pick to light methodology, which means it lights up the bin. It lights up when somebody has to turn around and pick an item from it as that document is flowing through the picking process. Obviously, we mentioned items stocked in multiple units of measures. Bins are very fixed and very defined, which is why people pick directed pick and put away. They're actually dedicated in default. They are actually fixed, not willy-nilly. Doesn't mean you can't do it, but I mean, it's more optimal, obviously, when it's fixed, because it'll direct the user to go places. And wave picking is required, which means it'll do it in the wave, meaning it might go from the closest bin to the furthest away bin, so you can actually set up the different ways of picking in terms of the motions or the walking, the steps that the warehouse worker will take. I really want to show you this because I've been talking about it for so much. I felt it was necessary to do actually a demo of this. So I thought, why not just go through the day in the life of one item, and let's just go through and do a directed world. So I'll just make a quick purchase order. And I'll pick a new one here. And I'll pick a vendor from my list. And we'll pick an item. This item is going to be 489. Let's see what that is today. Okay. I think we're making everybody hungry because some of you around the world, it's probably getting close to your evening or afternoons. And I've picked some salmon, some Atlantic salmon here to bring in. Obviously, I'm going to go down here and just confirm a couple of things. I'm going to look at my shipment here. I'm going to change my location to white, which is obviously, as you know, is my directed put away zone. So I'm going to pick that, update a couple of lines. Everybody has always seen those messages. I'll make sure I put white over here as well, because it didn't update my line. I'm going to bring in this case, I'm going to bring in, say, 5,000 pounds of Atlantic salmon. I'm all said and done here. You'll notice when we do things that require bins, the quantity to receive an invoice always stay blank because it requires a warehouse document. I could release this document right here and just release it so that it's all set in motion. Now, a lot of the warehouse process I'm going to do manually for you just because I want you to see it. Things can be automated where maybe job queues go out, and for everything that's released, create all the warehouse shipment, and people can run the warehouse shipment and bring them all in and do a get from all of the purchase orders. I'm going to do this manually, so let's do a quick warehouse receipt. It says cubage to place 0 exceeds the available capacity of bin W8001. Do I still want to use this bin? Absolutely. Again, by using cubage, I'm telling my Business Central that please do not exceed the different bin quantities. However, you can override that. As you can see the message here, and it does allow that. It'll create this warehouse shipment document, receipt document, sorry. Here it is. At this point, I've got 5,000 to receive. The only thing I really need to do, I could calculate a cross dock. I mentioned that earlier. If you want to see what's available for cross docking, if I have salmon going outbound, I can click this and it will tell me. And actually, I will actually receive this item at a cross dock location. I'm just going to post the receipt real fast here because obviously time, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. You must assign a lot number. And again, all warehouse processes require you to do lot numbers and serial numbers. Obviously, in my case, I'll just go into my item tracking here, put a quick lot number in here, and let's just call this Bootcamp 1. And we'll expire these on 12/31/26, and we'll bring in our 5,000 units. And then post again. Take about a minute. If you're doing this from a handheld, you can post at the same time. If we're in the handheld, it would prompt you that you have a put away document available to you to go actually do the put away. So not only have I posted this document through, my warehouse now has my warehouse handheld or my screen has a warehouse put away to go with. And then obviously I can go to warehouse put away. And on here, I will see my last number 10. I've got 2 lines of salmon, 5,000 each. This is the receiving bin, and it's being put away in the in-use surplus bin. It knew to go there because I told it to. I fixed it. It's mandatory to go there. And then obviously somebody can consume it. Maybe it goes into manufacturing to make it into packaging and stuff like that. On a put away, again, here, the only thing to do is make sure your quantity to handle is filled in. You can auto-fill it if you'd like, and then register your put away. Now that the put away is all registered, I think we should sell some salmon to everybody on the call today. And I'm going to go and do a quick new sales order. I'll pick our favorite customer that everybody probably has seen in Kronos. Let's just do the Canon group. I'm going to be PO Bootcamp. And let's go to 489. And we've got that Atlantic salmon. Again, this came up because the customer card says to go to blue. Obviously, I'm going to manipulate this real quick. I'm going to come in here and change the location to white. You'll get the, okay, we're changing it on the header. You must update the lines manually. We saw that on the purchase order before. And so I'll come up here and just make sure that, oops, sorry, this is set to white. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to sell 1,000 pounds of salmon to the Canon group. I could add other items, as you know, come down here and maybe do a 488. Let's see what I have. Another set of salmon here. And maybe this one will do, I don't know, 25. So as you can see, I don't have enough inventory to do 488, and I'm in trouble. When you are doing warehousing picks, please realize one big thing. Whether you're doing a production pick, an assembly pick, a warehouse shipment pick, anything that requires that word pick, if you do not have the item on inventory, it will not create the pick. So let me repeat that. It will not create the pick. If I'm missing something and I can't pick it, it will not create that pick document because it's trying to create a pick for something I don't have on inventory. Therefore, it doesn't like to create the pick. I know it sounds funny. Do I have some of this on hand where I'm going to do partials? Absolutely, you can partially pick, absolutely. But if I'm doing complete, if I'm setting is always to be set to completed picks, then obviously I need to have all of it on hand before I pick it. Just realize that when you're setting on the customer card. Am I shipping something partially or completely? In doing so, that defines the pick. I'm going to remove this item because I really don't have any of this on inventory. And I'm all set to go here. I will release my document. And again, we're just going to follow the same protocols. We'll create a warehouse ship. I could have done this in mass. I could have brought all my documents in using the warehouse shipment document or a job queue, for instance. It creates a warehouse shipment document here. I will make this larger so everybody can see it. Obviously, what do I do from here? I need to create a pick. So it says, okay, let me create the pick. Now, for those of you who have handhelds, so those you want handhelds, I'm dying to see this, Steve, handhelds. You can assign it to the warehouse operator, and the handheld also can be assigned to a warehouse operator. You can sort it. I could sort this in a very different methodology. Please do it in item number order. Please do it in bin number order. A lot of people do it in bin number order because the bin is like an aisle, like aisle A, bin 2, third high. So they do it so that when they're going up and down aisles, they're almost like making a traveling pattern. So that's very, very, very popular to do. I'm not going to fill in the quantity handle. I want the operator to fill that in, whether on the handheld or on the picking document. I'm not going to print anything. If you're in a directed pick and put away environment, you can show the summary here. It's allowed. It will give you that information. And you can prioritize item tracking. I don't prioritize things because as they get to an item tracking item, it'll appear on the gun or on the paper. You'll have to type in on the screen, of course, your item tracking. So we'll go here. It'll go here. And again, this is just a summary so I can see what happened. I have a sales order going out for this item to go get 1,000 units. And again, it's just summarizing everything about it. And I can see what bins have it in it if I really wanted to. The pick itself is PI21, has been created from it. So I will get off this screen, off the summary. I will jump over to the pick real fast. I can click the word pick lines, show document, and here's my pick. You can see I'm going to in surplus. You saw that before. I'm going to put it to 9. You saw that earlier when I was on the location card for white. 9 was the bin for shipping. Now, if I had a staging environment, I would have went to staging before that. And then that process would, first you would have had a staging step, and then you would have had more of a picking shipping step. I can print things out here. You can see quantity handle is set to 0. If I tried to register the pick, it's going to yell at me. There's nothing to register. You also see there's nothing to create. You always see that there's nothing to handle. There's nothing to handle message, error message. That means when it's nothing to handle, that means I don't have inventory. I cannot create the document you're asking me to because there's nothing to handle. So again, possibly you've got it in a bad bin, or possibly it's in a bad location. Maybe it's reserved by other people and you have to undo reservations. But things to think about when those messages appear, don't just say, shoot, what's going on? Look at the inventory item. If there really is inventory on hand, is there a reservation attached to it? Is it already been in the wrong bin and I'm trying to go after a bin that obviously is not in the right spot? I'll just autofill the quantity to handle real fast. And I will register this pick in a second. I will go back to the warehouse shipment document here. I will actually go to home, and then under the post, I will post my shipment. I won't do the invoice. I'll leave that alone for another day's conversation, which I think if you've been on the boot camp all day, you've seen some people work in the sales and order entry area. Oh, shoot, I forgot to put my lot number in. I better go do that. Yes. When you're doing a handheld, the lot is prompted to you. When you're doing a pick on inside of the Business Central, the lot is not prompted to you. It's kind of a weird thing. Not sure why. I wish they would change it so it'd be more consistent. That the actual pick, you did the lot number, but the handheld actually does it for you. But what I call the screen paper version does not. So let's follow the same steps we did when we did our receipt. We'll go to item tracking. We'll open up the lot numbers here, and you'll see my Bootcamp sitting right here waiting for me. My Bootcamp is in here. I've picked my 1,000 pounds, and I'll go back and, of course, post my shipment one more time and complete the process. So we've gone full circle. We're back to our sales order. Again, we're not going to invoice this off, but we've taken a tour of the location card. We've taken a tour of the warehouse by doing all this. Obviously, there's other features inside of the warehouse itself. For instance, you can move material from bulk to maybe a picking zone. You can actually run a replenishment. And I don't know if anybody knows this, but there's actually a way you can run. Let me just do this. In here, inside of my warehouse movement, there's actually ways of creating, bring in the registers movements, or basically pull in the movements, and they'll all be listed here. In addition to that, I can also run replenishment. So watch this. If I do an INVMOV, so I'll come into my basic inventory movement here. I'll create a new one. And actually, I'll take this one's going to be for the white location. Let's just do white. And it's going to yell at me and says, oh, wait, it's directed pick and put away. I'm sorry, I don't let you use an inventory movement. So let's go and create a warehouse movement for this. So under the warehouse movement, again, there's not many choices here. I'm sorry, I got to push my push pin. I don't like when it keeps jumping around. But inside the warehouse movement, these warehouse movements will come automatically from the replenishment process. How the replenishment process works is, as things are being replenished, and I'll go back to my movement journal, but I won't pick white so I can show this to you. If I click new and I pick a silver location, you can actually go inside here and run a replenishment task that actually will bring all the inventory items in from the bulk bins to the picking bins. It is the coolest little thing for people who have very large warehouses and need to move things on a daily basis. So you run your replenishment maybe at the end of the day, and the evening workers will go and replenish all your picking bins from your bulk bins. Something to mention, I wanted to mention before we kind of leave this screen. All right, I'm going to pick up where we left off and finish out the day. Again, some related considerations. Always remember when you're choosing basic versus advanced, if you do have item tracking, again, make sure your item tracking has several configuration options. They can be processed very differently between both an inventory screen and a warehouse screen. You saw a warehouse screen that didn't even have it. Whereas basically on an item journal or something else, it's going to be there. So again, very different. So big decision when you're using warehouse tracking. Also related. For those of you who never even knew this, for the first, there is a FIFO field related to item tracking. What does FIFO stand for? First expired, first out. So when you're doing FIFO, which most people will do when there's an expiration date on a lot, because they want to make sure that I'm not taking something off the shelf that's already expired, my customer is going to get poisoned or sick or whatever it is. So make sure that if you're doing FIFO and warehouse, and set it, make sure that's on, because it's a big decision when you're doing warehouse tracking, in terms of that tracking process. I showed you item tracking before. I actually combined it into two because I wanted to be respectful of everybody's time here. So I'm going to skip this demo because I already went through it. And one last thing to note, configuration for physical inventory and counting. There are different configurations that have a major impact on inventory counting. When you're using warehouse inventory, warehouse documents, obviously you're going to follow along with those warehouse documents for physical inventory and counting. If you're doing no warehouse documents, you're using the basic physical inventory. Now, there is a concept, as we know, in Business Central called physical inventory orders. I literally love this when it came out. I was so happy and clapping and jumping up and down. The fact that I can create multiple physical inventory orders and create various recordings by cycle count, by if I'm doing cycle counting A, B, C, D, or maybe I want to split the warehouse into locations into many things. You can do all this because obviously I'm creating different things with the bins maybe, or I'm doing it based on item tracking, maybe items in a freezer versus items in a dry area. But obviously the physical inventory order is the wave of the future. When doing that, and obviously if you're doing warehousing documents, it'll invoke the warehousing document versus what I call the basic documents. So if you've never tried physical inventory order before, I highly recommend you doing it. I've done a couple of articles and presentations on this before, walking you through the life of a physical inventory, whether you're doing cycle counting or physical. You could probably try to find one that's got my name on it, or reach out to me and I'll email it to you. You can have a copy of it. All right, we're pretty much done here for the most part. And if you kind of want to learn more about warehouse, this QR code will bring you to the last reported information regarding WMS documentation before it kind of got discontinued a long time ago. But it's the last known document that's out there. So feel free to go and use it. And again, if you do have questions, I'm going to open it up to the community right now. I'll leave it so that, if anybody's got a question, please unmute yourself, say the question, or enter it in the chat, and Raj will just tell me it's out there. You can get a hold of me if you would need anything. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Steve. Okay, so there are a few questions in here. So Lewis is asking, can we set up quality control sampling, checking percentage in the warehouse process, like in receiving for specific products, vendors, etc.?
Repeat that question one more time.
So he's saying, can we set up quality control sampling checking percentage
you can.
in the warehouse process?
Yes. A couple of things about Business Central. For those of you who do not know, soon Business Central will be doing more of the quality features they've been adding slowly to the Business Central system. It's not fully there yet, but I can tell you it's getting there. It's not perfect in terms of setting those up, but it's going to be a great tool, I'd say, within the next year. If for those of you who have a quality control app, which there are many out there. You can set up all the quality control receiving rules to establish if I receive in an apple, what quality test do I have to do on an apple and quarantine it temporarily so that you can do the tests, record the test, and then release the apple into the picking zone. So you can set them up with all the apps. You can do it with the new quality side of Business Central. I don't think it's all there yet, but it's going to be coming very soon.
Could we set up BC productivity metric standard work like UPPH for each warehouse process, like picking, shipping, etc., so we can monitor warehouse workers' performance? I think you just answered that one.
Yeah, I know their statistics. Everybody's been asking this question about the warehouse. How can you run some stats based on the warehouse worker? Are they fast? Are they slow? Do they pick fast? Do they do things fast and slow? I do know with the handheld organizations that do the apps, they have. I know one has it. I think the other one, I saw it the other day, has Power BI dashboards that do give you statistics of how long things are taking by operator. So like when somebody goes out to do a pick, one pick might take 25 minutes. The other person does the same pick. It took them 2 minutes. And you can see those stats by the operator of the handheld device. And I believe it's under the classification of pick time, put away time, movement time. And it uses the different documents that are inside the handheld. So remember, receiving, shipping, picking, put away, movement, output journals, consumption journals, all the different facets. I believe there are stats on those.
Is slotting a process that Business Central supports out of the box, or is it typically handled through extension add-ons?
Say that one more time.
Is slotting a process that Business Central supports out of the box, or is it handled through extensions and add-ons? Slotting.
Blocking things, like blocking?
Slotting.
Oh, slotting.
Yeah.
Slotting, the concept of slotting, the way I interpret the concept of slotting, I know you can do it, but I believe most of the apps do it better and have that functionality within it. The way most organizations use slotting today. Kind of like when I said Pick to Light. Pick to Light is part of an app add-on that actually does Pick to Light. Other robotic picking from Power Block. That's an app that uses robotic picking where you're not even picking. It's an inhuman pick. It's just a robot doing the pick. I believe slotting is the same way. There is an app. Almost all the app providers can do slotting today.
Great. Okay. The final question is there a report in BC that shows shortages or backlogged orders, or in Power BI?
Actually, in both. BC has the following reports. If you are talking about production orders, there's a shortage report that tells you all the shorts you have in your production area for manufacturing. If you're talking about just shipping customer orders, you can run a back order report that tells you all of your orders that have not shipped because they're back ordered. They did not go out the door based on the shipment date, or you've already done a partial ship, so it's considered back ordered. So you can have it by customer, or you can have by item and customer. But there should be two reports out there called back order, shortage report for manufacturing, and you can run certainly the item availability report, the projection one, or the by location one that actually will tell you by sales order, receipts, production, by all the different document types, what the demand is and where the supply is. So obviously, if you're seeing negative numbers, you're in trouble because nothing's in-house yet. You're still waiting for that purchase receipt. Power BI has a bunch of dashboards referencing the same stuff. Under the sales, there's a back order one. Under inventory, there's a back order one. I believe under inventory, there's a new shortage one. I believe it covers many things now because it expanded the spectrum of what it's looking at. And especially with Power BI, because you already have one that's called shortage, you can just copy it and remodel it to include shortage for customers like back orders. You can make it more of a all-encompassing report if you'd like.
Okay, and I promise this is the last one. This is the last question from Lewis. Are SSCC, GTIN, and GS1 128 part of BC out-of-the-box features?
I'm gonna hit escape here. I'm gonna open up I'm assuming that's in the chat, right?
Yeah, I'll stick it in again.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up here. So I'm gonna read. Oh, RSSCC, G10, and GS. Oh, yes. Okay. So the way that works, Louise, or Louise. I'm sorry if I said it wrong. So, but G10 is part of standard BC. There is a field on the item card called G10. For people who are doing the SSCCs, which is the UCC 128s, that is actually something you'd have to get an app to do, whether you're using an EDI provider like TrueCommerce, SPS Commerce. They can help you with the SSCC creation of those numbers when creating the UCC 128 labels. GS1 128 part, which is the same thing, kind of part of the SSCCs. Those also require an app or a provider to create those. They're not out of the box, meaning Business Central doesn't understand what a UCC 128 means or to create that number. Could it be done? Sure. It does have UPC codes because that's a barcode. So the G10, which is the longer UPC code, you can do the shorter UPC code also as a barcode. In the item reference table, there's a barcode choice. Set it up and you're off and running. So those features, some are available. But again, when you go to UCC 128, go to your app provider and they'll help you.
Oh, excellent. Well done. Well, first of all, thank you so much. Round of applause for Steve Chinksy for saving the day. And we also overran as well. So good job we did. So we got to see your session in full glory. Thank you so much, Stephen. Your sessions, I'm a huge fan of you and I'm always learning a lot from you. So thank you so much for imparting your knowledge on us all today. And and also thank you, Lewis. So Lewis has been the most interactive user at the bootcamp today. So well done, Lewis. Normally we give prizes away for the most interactive person. But we don't have any prizes this time round for this year's bootcamp. But we will see everyone tomorrow. It is a technical bootcamp tomorrow. So today was a functional day. Tomorrow is technical, primarily around Copilot, data management, business analysis, reporting. So we're covering all of that stuff tomorrow. So see you all tomorrow, guys. Get some rest today. See you tomorrow, and let's keep up the energy and let's keep on learning together. So hopefully you've learned a lot today. Thank you, everyone. Huge again. Thanks to Steve. Thanks to all the speakers today. Make sure you follow Steve, by the way. I'll be sharing his details there. You can connect with him on LinkedIn, or you can contact him via his email, as you can see on the screen. I'll see you all tomorrow, guys. See you all tomorrow. Take care, guys. Well done.